What's up, Raider Nation? The 2025 NFL Draft is right around the corner. We're officially less than a week away. In just a few days, the draft will be done and dusted, and the Las Vegas Raiders will have welcomed a fresh group of rookies to the silver and black. The roster could look a lot different next week. The future? Even more so. There's even a chance the Raiders take a quarterback, a move that would instantly shift the direction of this team. Now, when it comes to building a championship roster, there's one formula I always believe in: dominate the trenches. Everyone says it, sure, but actually doing it takes real planning. You don't spend top 15 picks on guards or centers. That's not how successful teams are built. But when it comes to offensive tackles, that's where early round picks make all the difference. The best guards and centers are usually available in rounds 2 or 3. You can still land top-tier starters there. It just takes the right scouting and strategy. Look at how the Buccaneers approached it. JohnSpytek, while not the GM, had a big role in shaping their line. They added Tristan Wirfs, Luke Goedeke, and Cody Mauch, all early-round picks who quickly became solid starters. That kind of drafting rebuilt their offensive front in just a few seasons. So let's talk Raiders. I don't expect them to trade up. They'll likely stay put at pick number 6. And trust me, I've thought a lot about what direction they might go. One of the biggest needs? Running back. If Ashton Jeanty is still available at number 6, you have to at least think about it. He's the top back in this class. Explosive, versatile, and a true game changer. Plug him in, and the offense becomes instantly more dynamic. But while I see the value in that pick, I still believe fixing the offensive line has to come first. Right now, I'm not sold on DJ Glaze as the long-term answer at tackle. Maybe he proves himself, and I hope he does. But history tells us that if a tackle doesn't flash in year 1, they often don't develop into elite starters. Thayer Munford is a good example. Promising tools, but he just hasn't hit that next level. It's the same issue we saw in the Super Bowl. The 49ers had a right tackle who struggled against Chris Jones, and it cost them big. Some thought he could be the next Mike McGlinchey, but when it came down to it, the Chiefs exploited that mismatch. Compare that to someone like Jackson Powers Johnson. You could tell from day one, this guy's a star. He's handling vets like Vita Vea and tossing them around. That kind of raw strength and movement doesn't come around often. And that's where I see the difference. Some traits just aren't teachable. Munford, for example, will never move like a Colton Miller or Penei Sewell. He might get slightly better, but he'll never have that elite athleticism. You need someone who can anchor that right side for years to come. That's why if I'm the Raiders and if he's still on the board, I'm taking Armin Membo from Missouri at pick number 6. He's a natural right tackle, strong, athletic, and ready to contribute immediately. Lock him in on the outside, and you can move DJ Glaze inside, where I think he fits better anyway. Picture this. You've got Cole at center, Jackson Powers Johnson at one guard, Glaze at the other, and Membo locking down right tackle. That's 4 starters locked in, and all of them young and talented. Fill that final guard spot with someone like Alex Kappa or Dylan Parham, and suddenly, the offensive line looks ready to roll. I know not everyone will agree with this pick, but in my eyes, it's the smart move. Build the trenches, protect the quarterback, and let the offense shine. There's one important angle Raider Nation needs to consider. If the Raiders end up winning 9 or 10 games this season, which is totally possible, they'll likely miss out on a top offensive tackle in next year's draft. Think about it. Geno Smith-led teams have consistently hit the 10-win mark, and if the Raiders reach that same level, they could find themselves drafting in the 20s next year. The top offensive tackles almost always go within the first 15 picks. That's just how it works, year after year. So if DJ Glaze doesn't pan out as the long-term solution at tackle, and you're sitting at pick number 22 in 2026, you're probably out of luck. That's why locking in a player like Armin Membo right now makes a ton of sense. Tackle is the second most important position after quarterback, and getting it right is crucial. Drafting a tackle in the 2nd or 3rd round just doesn't have the same hit rate. If the Raiders can land Membo at number 6, they'll be solving one of the biggest pieces of their rebuild. Now, let's shift into round 2. With tackle addressed, DJ Glaze can slide inside to guard, a move that plays to his strengths. That opens the door in round 2 to look at other areas: running back, guard, wide receiver, even defensive back later on. There are several names to watch here. If a player like Jaden Higgins is still on the board, the Raiders could land a true X receiver, a big, reliable target. Kyle Williams is another name generating buzz. In fact, some outlets are way too low on him. He might end up being a top 15 pick when it's all said and done. But if he's there at number Sam Sipsil, that's a player you seriously consider. Still, the Raiders aren't in terrible shape at receiver. They've already got Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, Brock Bowers, and Michael Mayer. That's a strong core. If they want to add a receiver, they can do it strategically, either through free agency or by targeting a specific role player in the mid-rounds. Someone like Tucker can take the top off defenses, while Myers is a reliable possession guy with great hands. But let's talk running backs, because this year's class is loaded. If the Raiders don't grab Ashton Jeanty in the first round, they can still find a potential star in round 2. This class has legitimate depth. Names like Cam Scatterbo, Caleb Johnson, Tre'Veyon Henderson, and Quinton Judkins are all capable of stepping in and producing right away. Think about it. Nick Chubb and Jonathan Taylor were both second-round picks, and they became elite starters. You can absolutely find a top-tier running back outside round 1 this year. In this mock, Tre'Veyon Henderson is the pick at number 37. He's explosive, experienced, and already familiar with head coach Chip Kelly. Some evaluators think he could sneak into the first round, and honestly, it wouldn't be a surprise if he did. But if he falls, the Raiders would be smart to scoop him up. With tackle and running back locked in, the Raiders could turn their attention to the secondary at number 68 or later. At the beginning of the offseason, safety didn't seem like a top priority. Coaches like Patrick Graham and PeteCarroll are known for finding talent and developing it, either through the draft or free agency. But letting both Marcus Epps and Trayvon Moehrig walk sent a message. The team went out and signed Jeremy Chin and Isaiah Pola-Mao, 2 players who largely play the same hybrid box role. Neither is suited to play deep in coverage. Neither is a true post safety. Pola-Mao, in particular, struggled on tape. He lacks fluidity and speed in space, key traits for a deep coverage player. So if the Raiders want a safety who can cover ground and play in space, they'll need to find one in the 3rd or 4th round. Let's be real, the draft simulators don't always get it right. Most of these rankings are made by one person at a given outlet, and they're often way off from how the league sees things. Take Kevin Winston Jr. There's no way he's still on the board at pick number 68 in the real draft. Same with Kyle Williams. People are going to be shocked when they hear his name called in the top 15. Who is this guy? They'll say. But trust me, Kyle Williams can flat out play. Now, if he's available, I'd take him in a heartbeat. But assuming he's off the board, the Raiders still have a real need at safety. And there's one guy I love for this spot, Andrew Mukuba from Texas. Mukuba had a standout season, 6 interceptions, close to 10 pass breakups. This guy was constantly around the football. He might have been Texas' best defensive player this year. He's got speed, range, and ball skills. He can cover ground from sideline to sideline and play deep as a true post safety. Exactly what the Raiders need. I didn't even plan to scout him at first. I only checked him out because he followed me on Twitter. But after watching his tape, he's a baller. Legit difference maker. And in this scenario, the Raiders land him in round 3. So at this point, you've addressed 3 major needs. Right tackle, running back, post safety. That's 3 likely starters before round 4. Now, some people think the later rounds are just for special teams depth. I had a friend say to me, "You're still watching the draft in round 4?" But the truth is, this is where good front offices win. You find real value, even all-pro talent, in the 3rd and 4th rounds. And this year's draft class is deep. Picks like 108, 143, even 180, they still have starter potential. Let's talk about positions the Raiders could still target. Guard is one of them. I'm not taking one here in this mock, but I'll say it straight up. Dylan Fairchild is built different. If you haven't watched him yet, do it. This guy plays with serious power and technique. He could start day 1. Jalen Rivers is another option. He showed out at the Senior Bowl. In my opinion, he was the best offensive lineman there. If the Raiders want to double dip on the O-line, Rivers could play guard right away. You could also consider adding a second running back, but I'd hold off a little longer. There are so many quality backs in this class. You can afford to wait. Let's be real. The draft simulators don't always get it right. Most of these rankings are made by one person at a given outlet, and they're often way off from how the league sees things. Take Kevin Winston Jr. There's no way he's still on the board at pick number 68 in the real draft. Same with Kyle Williams. People are going to be shocked when they hear his name called in the top 15. Who is this guy? They'll say. But trust me, Kyle Williams can flat out play. Now, if he's available, I'd take him in a heartbeat. But assuming he's off the board, the Raiders still have a real need at safety. And there's one guy I love for this spot, Andrew Mukuba from Texas. Mukuba had a standout season, 6 interceptions, close to 10 pass breakups. This guy was constantly around the football. He might have been Texas' best defensive player this year. He's got speed, range, and ball skills. He can cover ground from sideline to sideline and play deep as a true post safety. Exactly what the Raiders need. I didn't even plan to scout him at first. I only checked him out because he followed me on Twitter. But after watching his tape, he's a baller. Legit difference maker. And in this scenario, the Raiders land him in round 3. So at this point, you've addressed 3 major needs. Right tackle, running back, post safety. That's 3 likely starters before round 4. Now, some people think the later rounds are just for special teams depth. I had a friend say to me, "You're still watching the draft in round 4?" But the truth is, this is where good front offices win. You find real value, even all-pro talent, in the 3rd and 4th rounds. And this year's draft class is deep. Picks like 108, 143, even 180, they still have starter potential. Let's talk about positions the Raiders could still target. Guard is one of them. I'm not taking one here in this mock, but I'll say it straight up. Dylan Fairchild is built different. If you haven't watched him yet, do it. This guy plays with serious power and technique. He could start day 1. Jalen Rivers is another option. He showed out at the Senior Bowl. In my opinion, he was the best offensive lineman there. If the Raiders want to double dip on the O-line, Rivers could play guard right away. You could also consider adding a second running back, but I'd hold off a little longer. There are so many quality backs in this class. You can afford to wait. As we move into the later rounds, this is where you want to start developing your depth, and maybe even find a future replacement for someone like Malcolm Kuntz. I don't think Kuntz is coming back after this season. Let's be real. He barely played early in his career, then bounced back last season. But think about this. He was coming off an ACL injury, hadn't played in over a year, and still got a deal worth around $13 million annually. Meanwhile, Josh Jacobs, a guy who put up over 1,700 rushing yards just a year earlier, wasn't even offered that kind of money. That tells you how much teams value pass rush. If Kuntz gets anywhere near 7 or 8 sacks this year, he's likely looking at $20 to $25 million per year in free agency. That's why it makes sense to draft his eventual replacement now. At pick 180, I want to start looking at linebackers and corners, guys who fit the system and can be molded. Think of how PeteCarroll used to find 5th-round linebackers and turn them into Pro Bowlers, or how Patrick Graham might hit on an undrafted guy like Amari Gaynor. One linebacker I really like is David Gbenda out of Texas. Yes, the G is silent. He's a true downhill player. 6 feet 0 inches, 235 pounds, strong, physical, and built to blow up the run game. He graded out at 84.5 in run defense, which is elite for his position. His coverage isn't elite, but it's solid, and there's definite upside to develop. Other names to keep in mind: Danny Stutzman, tough, rangy, high motor. Kareem Reed, interviewed well at the Hula Bowl, very high IQ guy. But for now, I'm rolling with David Gbenda at this spot. I think he brings toughness and run-stopping juice the Raiders need. Let's shift to running back for a second. Right now, the Raiders' backfield is a big question mark. Sure, you've got Raheem Mostert, but there's a real chance he gets released. Same with guys like Dylan Lobb. Yeah, he's under contract, but he didn't show much last season and had multiple fumbles. The new regime under Spytek might clean house if these guys don't fit their vision or work ethic. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Raiders end up drafting 2 running backs. Let's talk prospects. Jordan James, Oregon, fits the mold of the quick, explosive back Spytek has targeted before. Joquavius Marks, great burst, might be more complete than James. Raheem Rocket Sanders, physical, SEC tested with big playability. Any of those guys make sense at this stage. Now let's get into interior offensive line. We've got Alex Kappa, who signed a $5 million deal, and Dylan Parham. But Parham is in a contract year and might not be part of the long-term plan. If that's the case, you need to be thinking about a developmental guard now. There are a few guys I really like. Joshua Gray, Oregon State, fits perfectly in a wide zone scheme, has good feet and solid technique. Jackson Slater, physical, strong, plays with great leverage. He's not flashy, but he's reliable and coachable. I think Gray fits best with what the Raiders might be looking to do in the run game. Lots of outside zone concepts, relying on movement and agility from the line. So here's the haul so far. Tackle running back, safety defensive lineman, edge linebacker, second RB guard. That's how you build out a complete draft class. Not just stars, but contributors and future starters. All right, with our final pick, I'm going with Jackson Slater, the guard. I was considering Miles Frazier too. He's got solid tape. But there's something about these small school interior linemen that just pop when they hit the league. Look at the Broncos' starting right guard. Came out of nowhere, D2 or D3 guy. And now he's one of the highest paid guards in the NFL, making $20 million a year. Sometimes these late-round trench players just hit. With this class, I think the Raiders end up with a strong mix, immediate contributors and a few long-term development guys. And that's key, because fast forward 3 years from now, that rookie linebacker you drafted, he's a free agent. Can you afford him? Maybe not. So you have to plan ahead. Bring in talent early, develop it, and have those next man-up types ready to go. That goes for guys like Trayvon Moehrig or Nate Hobbs, too. You might not be able to re-sign everyone, so you start drafting their replacements now, not when it's too late. Another spot to think about with this final pick is wide receiver. This class is deep, not just with WR1 types, but with role players who can give you 400 to 500 yards and 300 snaps a season. That's impact too. Maybe not Justin Jefferson level, but those rotational WR2 and WR3 guys are critical, because for every Max Crosby, you need an Adam Butler stepping in when Max gets doubled. Same goes for the O-line. If your starting guard goes down, your backup has to come in and hold the line. We saw that with the Eagles in the playoffs. Cam Jurgens went down, Landon Dickerson slid over, and Tyler Steen stepped up. Depth wins games. So with that in mind, I'm going with Leonte Wester out of FAU. Look, this dude dominated in 2023. When he transferred to Colorado, the hype was real. People thought he'd be their version of Travis Hunter, but it never fully clicked, mostly because of how weird Colorado's offense was last year. And trust me, I watched more Colorado games this season than any other college team. Wester's talent is legit. It just wasn't the right system for him. As a 7th rounder, he's all upside. Maybe in year 3 or 4, he starts making plays, carves out a role, and becomes a valuable piece of the Raiders' offense. Final thoughts on the class. I like what we ended up with. You've got Armin Mabau, absolute force on the edge. Tre'Veyon Henderson, explosive playmaker at running back. Andrew Mukuba, steady, versatile safety. Cameron Jackson, big, strong, run-stuffing defensive tackle with pass rush upside. Tyler Barron, potential loaded edge rusher. David Gibenda, physical linebacker who fits the scheme. Marks, or another RB, depth and future insurance. Jackson Slater, developmental guard with starter potential. Leonte Wester, high upside receiver who could blossom. That's a draft class that's deep, balanced, and strategic. You hit needs, you grab future starters, and you've got high upside guys in key depth roles. Let me know what you think. Drop your picks in the comments, hit the thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't already. The draft is right around the corner, and I've got another video coming where we'll break down potential targets at number 6 overall, about 12 guys with scheme fit, pros, cons, the whole thing. I'm under the weather, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. Catch you next time.